So without further ado, I'm going to bring Judy up and ask her to come and share her story with you. And then later on, we'll open the floor to your questions. Judy?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm really excited to be here. This is only my second invitation as the NEA ESP of the year. And I love being in the warm, beautiful Florida. Colorado is not quite so warm this time of the year. And there's no place I'd rather be than in this room with you. I want to thank your state president, Andy Ford, and your leadership team for inviting me here today. I also want to acknowledge your NEA directors, Calvin Collins, Melandia Corpus, Kathy Gundlach, Catherine Lysick, and of course our very own George Williams. I have the pleasure of serving with them as the NEA directors, and I know they represent you on the board with passion, knowledge, and are really terrific advocates for you and FEA. As I said, there's really no place I'd rather be than in a room with my ESP colleagues, sharing our experiences, our stories, and learning from each other. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I live in Canyon City, Colorado, a small rural community about 45 minutes southwest of Colorado Springs. I've worked in the health office at Skyline Elementary, now known as Canyon Exploratory School, for 22 years. I love my job as a health tech. Working with elementary school children has brought such joy to my life. That part of my life began in 1991. I was the employee who did my job and did it well. I always sat in the back of the room during meetings or classes, too shy to ever ask a question for fear it might be a stupid one. Never wanting to draw attention to myself. You might say I was really very shy. Then my life changed. I changed. When I and 3 of my courageous colleagues stepped up to organize our local in an anti-union environment. Yes, shy, never draw attention to myself, me, organizing. While this story is much, much longer, and I could talk to you all day about that experience, the part I'd like to share with you is this. The first time I spoke in front of our school board asking for recognition for our ESP colleagues, I was vulnerable and scared and placed standing by 2 administrators who hated what we were doing. I shook so badly that I could barely read from my paper. It was then that I vowed no one would ever make me that scared again. There are 2 things I'll always remember most about our organizing experience. The first is the strength we drew from the employees, both ESP and teachers, who packed the boardroom that night, each of them standing in solidarity with us, sharing a moment in time with us that I will never forget. Something changed in me that night, and it defined my journey for the next 12 years. The second is that every time I spoke in front of our school board, I was never offered a chair to sit. I was always placed standing by those same 2 administrators. Until, after many months and much work, our school board took a unanimous vote to make us the sole representatives of the ESP in our district. Thus, the Canyon City Education Support Professionals Association was born. Together, we did it, relying on each other through a very difficult time. Not long after our ratification vote, I was elected president, and the next time I spoke in front of our school board, one of our administrators stood up and offered me his chair. I was so taken back that I almost forgot what I came there to talk about. I remember thinking, so this is what it feels like to be respected and valued. I'm sure that administrator had no idea what effect that one action had on me. He probably doesn't even remember the event. I remember. Our teachers had been organized and recognized for 30+ years. But how dare the classified employees in my district think they needed to be recognized and have a voice? After all, the district would take care of us, right? You've heard that too, haven't you? You've heard the sayings, you're a dime a dozen, or there are 100 people waiting in line to take your job. It was that very attitude and that kind of language that gave us the strength and courage to organize our local. We were successful and continue today to be the sole representatives of our education support professionals. We have a master contract, a legal binding document, which includes due process and gives us a seat at the table and a voice in the decisions that affect our jobs. We should expect nothing less. We've come a long way. Our association is well respected, and we take pride on the collaboration and relationships we have with our school board, our administrators, and our teacher colleagues. So what did I learn from my organizing experiences? I learned that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. That success moves one step at a time. That you don't need a title to lead. Leading with vision, hope, and inner strength, and believing that you can change things is more than enough. I learned that the wishbone can never replace the backbone. So now, I have a question for you. How many of you have said, when asked what you do, I am just a? I used to say that too. I used to say, I am just a health tech. I'm here today to say to you, you are not just a. You are a valuable, contributing piece of the academic and personal success of every child you work with, regardless of your job classification. You all, every single one of you, have a story, and that story matters and it is powerful. Think about it. Think about the students you work with. Think about what you teach them every single day. Think about what you mean to them and what they mean to you. And think about how their parents depend on you. Our stories can range from teaching a child to read and to love to read, or knowing that you are the key to a nutritious meal or meals for your students on a daily basis, and that the meals you feed them and the education you do around healthy eating may be the only meals some of those students get every day. Your story might be the custodian that gives a student a job in the lunchroom or in the building that teaches them responsibility and builds their self-esteem. Or maybe you're the mentor to a student and the ear that listens to their needs and the one that keeps them in school. These are just a very few examples of stories that exist. There are also stories of courage that ESPs bring to life every day. Sometimes it places their own lives on the line. Some take my breath away, such as the story in Jefferson County, Colorado, where a man, armed with a rifle, shot 2 students at Deer Creek Middle School. And a bus driver, getting ready to pull away from the school with a full bus, heard a loud bang that sounded like an M80 firecracker. The students screamed when they saw the man with the rifle. The driver said the shooter looked like he was looking for another victim. The bus driver jumped off the bus and helped a teacher hold the suspect down until police arrived. 2 electricians used zip ties on the gunman's feet. And the brave head custodian, Kyle, who was a vigilant observer of all strangers that would come to Deer Creek, stopped the gunman from getting past the front office prior to the end of the school day. This is just one story of hundreds about how ESPs go above and beyond their daily duties, displaying a tremendous amount of courage. That's raw courage, and it too lies in the hearts of ESPs across the country who work to protect their students and their communities. Education support professionals are experienced and committed, educated and well-trained, and we care deeply for the students and their academic success, and we work to keep students and schools safe. I challenge each one of you to tell your story. Tell it loud and tell it proud. Tell it often and tell it to everyone who will listen, and tell it to those who won't. Just keep telling it, and tell it with pride every single time. And remember, you are not just and our work is more than a job, it is a career. Just as the health and wellness of my staff and students are responsibilities I take seriously, so are the health and wellness of the NEA and my ESP and teacher colleagues across this nation. The challenges we face will require all of us to have the courage to stand strong, speak loud, and hold on tight to the core values that guide us daily. Equal opportunity, a just society, democracy, professionalism, partnership, and collective action. It is these core values that give me hope and strength. This November, we are faced with one of the most significant presidential races in many years. Our voices are critical at the national level as well as at the local level. As education support professionals, we have a responsibility to be aware of and active in the political arena, and to work diligently to protect our union values, our profession, and our students. I don't have to tell you all how important it is to be educated in the differences of our political leaders and candidates. I encourage you to go to www.edvotes.org. You can see where President Obama and Mitt Romney stand on education funding, vouchers, early childhood education, higher education, ESEA, workers' rights, fair pay for women, health care reform, Social Security and retirement benefits, and tax fairness. We must take an active role in speaking out about these issues and how they affect our students and our employees. I hope you will stand with me and become an ESP educator for Obama. Someone once said that a child's life is like a piece of paper on which every person leaves a mark. The marks we leave on a child's life are precious and to a child unforgettable. The papers of the children we work with are stamped with teaching and learning, love and care, dedication and commitment, and it is stamped only the way we, ESPs and teachers, can stamp it. Education support professionals stamp those papers in our own unique ways. The NEA vision is a great public education for every student, and the contributions we, ESP, make every day makes that vision possible. 100 daily tasks keep a school running. We do them all. I'm proud of who we are and what we do every day for our students. I thank all of you for your commitment to your students and the association. Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you today. And remember, you can't spell respect without ESP. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Judy Dukes and David to join us up here. How many of you all appreciate Judy Near and the speaks that it is a great thing for ESPs to take pride in who they are and know that you just don't have to sit around and take it just because people give it. That you can say to your school boards and to your school district, we are very important partners in this work, and we deserve respect as we do the work that we do. Marion is now going to, or I'm going to, open up a question and answer session. And during this question and answer session, anything that you may have heard from Judy Near, please feel free to stand forth and ask your questions. There are 5 of us up here. At some point in time, 5 of us will be able to give you an answer that we believe will work for you no matter where you are. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions. Who wants to start first? Somebody's got to have a start. Somebody wants to break the ice in the room with asking the question of Judy or of this panel. Anybody? All right.
There you go. Thank you, Sandy.
One of the biggest problems we have with recruitment is, aside from money, is ESP's feeling like everything's about the teachers, and they go, well, it doesn't matter what we think anyway. So what's the best way for us to turn that around and present ourselves a different way? Because right now we're in heated negotiations, and that's what I'm hearing, because all during the negotiations, everybody says, well, we're here for the teachers, and we're supporting the teachers, and we want to, so I need to find a way to turn it around for my members to come to see you guys about that.
All right. I'm going to ask Judy if she wants to respond to that question. Thank you.
You know, I hear that a lot. We hear that at the national level as well. And like I said, tell your story. If you aren't patting yourself on the back and talking about what you do, other folks aren't going to know it. And so it was very important for us to get our teachers on board with us. And we did that by building relationships with them. And once we did that and had some of our core union teacher fellow colleagues on board with us, they very quietly but behind the scenes started talking to the ESP in their buildings, and then started talking about the importance of who we are and what we do. That's not an easy task, and you know, we face that every day. I've been in my job for 22 years. We still have to re-educate on a daily basis. We get new teacher colleagues coming in. They don't understand sometimes the importance of what we do, so we have to tell them. And we're very prideful in my district about telling people what we do. And so maybe if you could start there.
Marion?
I think the other thing is that I wrote it down because I loved what Judy said so much. The wishbone can never replace the backbone. I think sometimes we just have to be prepared to stand up for ourselves. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, the only person who could make you, somebody could only make you feel little if you allow them to do so. So whether you're talking to a school board or a colleague who sometimes doesn't realize your value, I think it's important to have that sense of who you are. And the fact is that can we break those barriers down? Absolutely. We bargain as a team in Polk.
Well, we do too.
And
it's all the media, when we try to talk to the support staff, it's like, well, that's all they talk about in media, and that's all they talk about in school meetings. So
well,
we're all in one union, but
right. I think part of what we do in Polk is we make sure that every press release we do has got ESP quotes in it as well. We make sure that when we're not talking, in between times when we're talking to the media, we talk about the other folks. It helps if you have your teachers willing to talk about ESP. Those are just some ideas. And I think the other thing is, and I know that we hate this, believe me, but I'm going to share with you the dirty little secret. Teachers hate being called teachers because not everybody that is represented in the teacher book is a teacher either. So guidance counselors get offended that they never get recognized, and school psychologists get offended that they never get recognized. And speech language pathologists don't really like being called speech teachers because they're actually a speech language pathologist. But really the respect is the public understands that everybody in that school building is an educator. And so maybe what we need to do is do a little bit of a philosophy change ourselves and say that where it is a badge of respect, that we all teach, that we all have that type of value, and that actually the public affords us all that type of respect. That and so I think sometimes it's a matter of how you look at things and then how you do things to empower placing pieces so that you slowly educate the media.
And I will, Sandy, I will only say to all of my brothers and sisters in here, I'll tell you this short story that was most powerful to me. We used to, in this organization, ESP had that same thought. That was our main thought. And everything that we did in this organization, we were expecting for somebody else to stop and recognize us. We were expecting for somebody else to give us respect. Jeff Wright, who's the chair or the director of our PPA department here, said to me one day, because we were going to Tallahassee to lobby, and we were talking about FEA needs to tell those state legislators who we are. And Jeff said this to me, he said, nobody can speak for you like you. And so when I started to walk in those legislators' office, I would introduce myself as George Williams, head custodian of Lee Elementary School. And they would say to me, well, I had a custodian at my school. And I said, but you don't understand. What I'm telling you is who I am. This is what I do every day. And we began to build relationships like that. So when I walk into their office now, they understand that I'm George Williams, head custodian at Lee School, and that I work in a school environment, and that my teachers are partners with me in whatever it is that's an issue. Why? Because it's like having a family. You don't take the red-haired child and treat them different than you do the blonde-haired child. Even though they may have different personalities and different places, you treat them all the same because they're your children. And so what I'm encouraging us to do for our ESP brothers and sisters, have them to understand that your teachers really aren't your enemies. If you work it right, they can become your best friends and your strongest ally. Yes, ma'am.
And I think that, you want me to yell? I think that sometimes I find that I get more respect out of some of my teachers than others, and they're the ones who tell the children that I'm a teacher, not a parent.
Exactly. 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 Any other questions? Please. Come on.
We're trying to organize how do we do this? We're trying to organize the bilingual aides and the nurses who really they're in the same group of category of the teachers, assistants and stuff, yet they have so many more qualifications that they have to have in order to be in that position. How do you promote having them, how do you organize something that you can get them better recognized to give them more value and more money towards them? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I get this your question.
You know, not that you're not all valuable, but.
Marianne, panel member. David, Judy. Anytime.
Are you asking how you organize? There's a couple of things you can do. Our contracts, our ESP and para contracts have levels within them. We do pay grades. Sometimes that's the easiest way to do that. We have a nurse line, principal secretaries, different constituency groups, and we actually have it broken down from, we did a long time ago a study, if you will, based upon what people did, and we broke it down into what skills were required for the job, whether they needed certification, like we represent LPNs that need licensure, hearing interpreters for the deaf that need certification. And so we did those things, and they are actually on a separate pay scale, but covered in the same collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, so now we're going to create a committee for each of those groups.
Mm-hmm.
And would then they be better they can tell us what specific things that they have to do for their.
Yeah.
Yes, we asked them directly. We got the people who did the jobs involved in that conversation. It was quite a large project in Polk, a larger county. And we literally gave surveys to every constituency group and asked them to tell us about their job and what they did. And then we literally went and kind of worked hand to hand, you know, looking at those surveys to try to do the placement correctly. But I absolutely think involving people in that conversation is imperative.
I think so. David?
There's a little more work involved in organized and unorganized labor. Even though they're recognized as a school district employee, you have to sign signature cards, and you also have to get recognition, either volunteer recognition from the school district and the organization, or you have to petition PERC to get it verified that you can represent these people. It's not very easy to do. It's a lot of work. They just did it. Osceola?
Yes.
And it took extensive amount of work, going door to door. You gotta have at least 50% of the people to sign a signature card saying they want to participate. And we have done it here with the FEA, and FEA staff is available to help you with this. But it's been done in Broward County too with the charter schools. So it's not something that can't be done. You just have to go out and reach out, get the signature cards, and do the legwork to get it done, and then petition for it.
Okay, as from the response, you can tell that there is a whole lot of work that's involved in it. But I think you heard some key pieces that was important. How do you start the groundwork? You start the groundwork with working with FEA to make sure that these people are able to be recognized in a bargaining unit as a group of school employees. You heard what Mary Ann said relative to making sure that their voices are at the table when you begin to bargain for them. If they're already members of your unit, your bargaining unit, as classified by PERC, then what you have to do is you have to start having your focus groups and your survey groups to make sure that their needs are exposed to the bargaining unit, so that the bargaining unit, when it bargains the contract, they will know what those particular interests is for that group of employees. So,
George?
Hold on.
Can I get a list of the breakdown of everyone that you have in a different skill category?
Yes.
Yes.
And let me tell you one other thing. David's right, if you're not already organized, if you're already organized, you can do, but one thing you need to start by doing, you can ask the school board to voluntarily recognize. If you have a good working relationship with your district, sometimes you can get them to agree, and then it's as simple as writing a joint letter to PERC recognizing a group of employees. So that's just, you know,
That's just
some of us still happen to have good relationships, and some of us don't, so it just kind of depends county to county.
It all depends on where you are. Okay, yes ma'am.
There's a very well-kept secret here in Florida that I think we need to start to use. There's a state statute out there on how to level paraprofessionals. And in my district, it's not being used. And it is outdated as everything, because a paraprofessional 1, you have to know the job. Paraprofessional 2, you have to have a high school education. Then it goes into college credits, to an associate's degree, to a bachelor's degree. It's a very good template to use for any of the leveling.
You're absolutely right. It is outdated because all of that changed when, according to the federal statute, all parents have to be highly qualified. And especially if they're in Title I type districts. So that changed it. So you're right, it's outdated.
It's outdated,
Yeah.
but it's a template that we can use, and it's on the books.
Well, the point though is that you have to really play into the role of highly qualified. And you have to understand that particular statute, because that is the current one. That is the current one. So I would really, it's okay to have that for informational purposes, but I have to tell you that you need to make sure that from paraprofessionals, the idea is to have them highly qualified in the district. Because even if they're working at a non-Title I school, they have the possibility of being moved to a Title I school. So you got to make sure that that happens. So that new statute is really the leg that we ought to be standing on, so to speak. Mary Ann, Judy.
Yeah, I just want to say, in Bradford County, one of the things we did to help people get paid more is that we give credit for degrees, just like they do with teachers, a master's and so forth. Ours is the AA and then the bachelor's. So there are things that you can do to put into your contract. It's ways to get your people that are more highly educated more money.
That's exactly right. Thanks, Judy. All right, I saw a hand here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, something I want to add is that we're with Osceola County. What we start doing is we have, they call union management meetings.
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
district monthly or every quarterly, and we specify for paras, for nurses, for clerical, for extended day. It's been great. We work with the school district, address our concerns, whatever. It's really, that's a big help also.
Right. And what my sister here is actually referring to is another way to actually manage what you have as far as agreements are concerned, or actually bring up new things that may arise with those particular issues and those particular constituencies in bargaining that you can actually work your way through. So these are very important pieces that I hope that you're taking notes on, because it all boils down to being able to organize, organize, organize. Next question, please. Any more questions? No one? Yes, sir.
Not really sure if this even pertains to this.
That's all right, just tell us.
I was at a meeting where we were trying to get like hazard pay. I work in a school with kids with disabilities, and I work with autistic kids that have behaviors, and frequently people are getting injured. And at the meeting I was at, because the president that was before me, that was cycle rep at my school, she was pushing that we get more pay. And when I went to this meeting, they had us in a whole different category, thinking that we were doing nursing duties, but we were coming to the table with information that people were actually getting hurt from the different incidents of behavior. But they wanted to institute supplemental pay, where we want a pay that's going to reflect daily. So I guess my question is, when I go back to that table to them, how do I come with it? Well, I know I had got some information from the nursing people that are on a safety committee, but how do I organize that type of deal?
Okay. Judy Near, I'm going to ask if you have any comments towards that.
Lots of comments about that, because we've struggled with that in my district as well. I see people who come into my office who have been scratched or bitten, and when you find the answer to that, let me know, because we have been unsuccessful in getting our district to see these people are scarred. And of course, at this point, sorry, my husband is sitting here. This is my husband, Mike. He's a retired teacher. Has been an NEA member for over 40 years, and now is a school board member, but we don't say that too loud. We've gone to our school board and talked to him. This was before he came on the board, but when you find the answer to that, I'd really like to know, because I see people that are injured from children all the time, and we do not have a separate scale on our salary schedule for that, and I think you said something about you did.
Yeah, we do. We have what we call ESE is broken into two different pay grades, contained and non-self-contained classrooms. We've actually tried to even break it down further, but haven't really had success. But we do have gradations in our contract, knowing that depending on things like how much independent supervision you do with children, we considered things like the type of students you worked with. For our self-contained and our non-self-contained, We knew that in those self-contained classrooms, there were heavy behavioral students, heavy medical students. For student-specific paras, they're in a higher pay grade because, again, they tend to only be assigned because of the cost factor. The district only gives those to either very medically or very behaviorally involved students. So really, it just began as a conversation. We did it quite a while ago. I was the bargaining chair at the time, and it was several years ago that we did it, but it is doable. You just really have to lay the groundwork within your association to make sure that you're on task with your members on that, because you also have to understand it can be a little divisive, where one group doesn't want to think that they think that you work harder than they do, and another thing that's changed a little bit since when we did it, let me just put this on the table, is inclusion. And so many more of the students that used to be in a learning center or used to be in a self-contained classroom are now in our regular ed classrooms. So that definition is really not quite as pure as it used to be. And I don't think it will as we move to greater and greater inclusion of our medical and behaviorally fragile students.
Thank you. Yes.
In Oakland County, we have ESC, that's what I do, I work with autistic class. We do get a 50 cents per hour across the board for ESC paras for the type of work we do. But what your best bet to do is get a survey out there, survey your members or even any non-members, how many times you're getting hurt on the job, how often, get a survey out and then bring the results to the school board at a meeting.
So that's the thing, we had a survey from our health and safety committee at the school, but unfortunately I got that information after that meeting. It was supposed to be scheduled, we haven't scheduled yet, so I definitely want to bring that
Do you have a president of your local? Do you have a president or vice president of your local? Have them, they let the school district let them do that. They send a survey out to us, just to always see all ESC paraprofessionals, and they would, anonymous, you didn't know who they were, sent the results in, we printed it out, then we presented that to the school board when we had our parties.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that you really got to continue to work on it, because it may not be successful in the first or the second round or third round of bargaining, but you keep trying. And while you keep trying, make sure you build those connections with the other members of your bargaining unit, so that everybody will understand this is about us and not just about one individual group. Because that's where you get your strength at the table, okay? When you've got factions of your bargaining group that goes to the table and they only looking out for themselves, they really don't understand the idea of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is about we, not about I or me, okay? And so we have to get people to understand that. My bus drivers in Madison used to think it was about I and me when they were talking about themselves, okay? They come to find out that the only way we can really have true strength in the union and in our district was that the conversations had to be about we and it had to be about us, all right? So, next question. Any questions? Any further questions? All right. Thank you so much for your energetic and asking of questions, and we hope that you've gained some information that you can take back to your local that's going to be successful in helping you to organize. But we're not done with you yet. Actually, we have you until 8:30. 8:45 or 8:30?
8:45.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that. You should have told me until 8:45. Wow. No, it's not 8 o'clock. Go by your program.